Hi, everyone. My name is Derek Lee. I'm an occupational therapist here at Davies campus, San Francisco, California. And today I'm here to talk to you a little bit about ergonomics. Before I begin, I want to let you know that there is a phone number throughout the presentation in case you want to text in some questions. And it's also available on the YouTube chat box. And there's also going to be some tips for technical issues if you run into any of those. So yeah, let's begin. And so ergonomics, why do we talk about ergonomics? You know, we want to fit people to, we want to fit the task to the people and not force the person to the task. We want to make them comfortable. So essentially we can reduce fatigue, reduce discomforts and injuries. Overall, if the employees is comfortable, people are more satisfied with their work, they're more productive, and the quality of work is better. So essentially, I have a systematic approach to looking at ergonomics. I want to look at the chair, the monitor, and the keyboard in that order. So looking at the chair, essentially the chair is your base of support. If that is off, everything else is going to be off. So a good ergonomic chair should have some basic adjustments. So seat height, seat depth adjustments, lumbar adjustments. Armrests are optional. And here's a picture of a human scale freedom chairs, one of our Sutter standard chairs. And so looking at the position of an employee sitting in their chair, we want to make sure they sit all the way back into their chair, utilizing the whole lumbar support. We want their feet flat on the ground. And we adjust the seat height so that the chair where the hip is slightly higher than the knee. That takes the pressure off the lower back a little bit. The next thing I look up is the monitor height. So I want to position the monitor so that the eyes are at the top 1/3 of the screen. That kind of puts your neck in a neutral position. Some things to consider is if you are wearing bifocal glasses or multifocal lenses, we want to essentially start off with your neck in a cervical, in a neutral position and adjust the monitor accordingly. The next thing I look at is wrist position. So with your keyboard, a lot of times you'll see these legs at the bottom of the keyboard and people flip them up. And when they do, the wrists are now in a wrist positive position. So what you're doing is you're exposing your carpal tunnel, you're exposing yourself to injury. We want to put your keyboard back in a neutral position so your wrists are flat. Sometimes that requires utilizing a keyboard tray. Usually desks are anywhere between 28 and 30 inches tall. Sometimes that could be too high for you to keyboard. So every now and then we will install a keyboard tray. And a lot of people are using laptops now. Have a picture here with somebody hunched over, looking down at their laptop. So essentially what we try to do is put their laptops in a laptop holder, bringing that back into a neutral position, utilizing a keyboard tray, and putting the wrist in a neutral position so the employee is comfortable. Looking at telephone use, you know, how often are employees using the telephone? We definitely want to avoid people cradling the telephone with their neck. You know, that could give you neck pain, shoulder pain. Every now and then we will order telephone headsets to put your neck in a more neutral position so you can multitask, you can type, you can write without cradling your neck. And also lastly, I look at the desk. I want to decrease the clutter, organize your binders, organize your books and your papers in a neat fashion so you can declutter your desk. And so these things to remember: keep your wrists in a neutral position, take frequent breaks, change your activity, avoid excessive force with the keyboard and the mouse, and more importantly, just remember to breathe. And so now I'll turn it over to my colleague here, Mitch, to talk about some exercises.
Hi, my name is Mitch Arno. I'm a physical therapist at CPMC Pacific Campus in San Francisco. And I'm going to talk basically about being active during the workday. So with a little bit of planning, there's a whole lot of different ways you can exercise during your commute. It really just takes a little bit of forethought into having the stuff you need for your workday at work. So oftentimes, for example, Monday I'll bring a change of clothes with me for Tuesday and all of the things that I would need for Tuesday. And then on Tuesday morning, I leave a little bit early, ride my bike to work, 45-minute bike ride, and I get my workout in right there. And I clean up at work and I make myself presentable. But yeah, I work in an environment that supports that and that I have a safe place to leave my belongings overnight. But look into your work environment to see if that's a possibility for you. So these are some other examples of ways you can add exercise into your commute. Really, it does help you feel better, helps you unwind after work, and helps you achieve some of those wellness and fitness goals. So you can walk, jog to work, whether that's a long walk, a jog on its own, combine the two so you don't get too worked up. Biking to work is another great one, and most of California supports a good bike to work day. Little things like taking the stairs does add up. And then you can add little simple exercises into your car ride, bus ride, ferry, train, however you commute. And we'll talk about exercises later and demonstrate some that are completely appropriate for that situation. And then another great one is just extending your commute. I know it doesn't sound great on a first thought, but it's a good way, again, just to get a little bit of exercise in there, forced in there. So you can park further from the office, you can get off the train a little bit earlier, stop early, or maybe a stop late if you're reading or it's a safer stop. And then you can schedule a fitness class or something like that into that commute as well, something you stop at on your way home or on your way to work. Another topic or way we like to think about changes in work that can help you achieve some exercise is substitutions. So these are changes in your routine tasks and workplace culture that sort of can help support being more active and really getting some exercise during the day. Examples of this are things like taking walking meetings. You can challenge coworkers with simple challenges throughout the day, like monitoring your step count, or more physical challenges like line up on a wall and do wall sits till one person has to quit. Be kind to each other, but just ways to get some exercise. Or you can challenge those number of flights of stairs you do in a day, just making sure that you're really getting those steps in. If you're in a place that does team building activities, even though these are maybe only once a quarter, maybe once a year, but if they're a physical activity, it's a great way to subtly change that workplace culture so that exercise and activity really is something that's supported and valued and gets your whole workplace community kind of on board with it. Another great one, and I'm biased because I work in a physical therapy clinic and all this stuff is available, but if you increase the availability of exercise supportive equipment and devices, it really does help support that culture as well. Sitting on stability balls or having them around just to do some stretches or simple exercises. Foam rollers are another great one that very popular these days and people love them. Self-massage tools like tennis balls you can lean against the wall on, or the Theracane, which is a hook-like structure in order to just do a little trigger point pressure type self-massage. All of these things really just show a supportive environment for that culture of health and being more active during the day. And it's nice to look over and see a device that's going to make you feel good if you're having a little aches and pains or getting stiff or sore from working all day. And then the last big category of recommendations is automating it, making it something that just is going to happen. So this is setting alarms through Outlook, or setting an alarm on your fitness tracker or watch, something that's going to go off the same time every day telling you to do some exercise, or to just change your posture or take a walk. All of these type of things that we're talking about. Scheduling exercise breaks into your day is also another great way to just make sure that it happens. It's on your schedule, it's written there, it's in your phone calendar, and you know, that way it doesn't get overlooked or pushed back an hour until it doesn't happen. Using your fitness trackers and smart devices to help you, you know, get those steps and set those goals. There's so many great devices out there right now. I can't keep up with them, but you know, they're just a great way to really keep it in the forefront of your mind. Making commitments to other people is a huge way to make sure that things happen. It's really hard to back out on a friend or a coworker when they're counting on you to show up and do that bike ride with them to work, or show up for that walking meeting. You know, you're not going to blow off the meeting, and if it's set to be a walking meeting outside and that's where it's going to start, you have to be there. So it's nice to make those commitments and not back out on them. It really helps keep you on track. Magic word agreements with coworkers is another idea that we talk about. It's the idea basically that you come up with a phrase or word or an item like a bell around your office space that if anybody says it or rings the bell, everybody just stands up, or you come up with an agreed action you're going to do just to get yourself out of maybe a sustained posture you've been in for too long. Again, I've talked about sort of the fitness tracker things, but tracking your adherence is another way to stay honest and motivate yourself. You know, using one of the new tech tools, fitness trackers and things, or just going old school and tallying it on a Post-it in a simple to see area is another great way. At home, I use a good old wall calendar, and I use colored dots for different physical activities that I've done, whether it was a bike to work or a run to work. And it just is a visual reminder that I'm achieving these goals and making things happen. All right, so now that we've been sitting and talking, this is kind of a magic word time. We're going to take a posture break, and I do strongly encourage everyone watching to participate in this. Obviously, I don't have any way of knowing if you are, but so stand up, move around. The first one here we're going to do is something we call a sun salute. Very simple move just to open up the posture, get your body moving. So you're just going to stand nice and tall, take a deep breath, bring your hands in to the center, reach up overhead, stretch those arms around to the sides. It's nice and slow, bring them back together and relax. All right, we're gonna do that one more time. Reaching those arms all the way up and around and back down. Good. Simple movement just to break up that posture, get your shoulders moving after sitting for, 20 minutes or so. And I realize that you maybe have lost my head as I've come standing, but maybe not. So if you can see me, excellent. Next one, definitely if you've been sitting for a while, is just standing lumbar extension. So I hope you're all still standing with me. Little comfortable back bend just to reverse that curve of the spine as you've been sitting all day. It's just a nice way to get out of that position and feel yourself move a little bit. All right, one more while we're all standing together. This is just a combined trunk rotation. You're just thinking about getting everything moving together. So the arms are going to twist and rotate. The hips are going to twist and rotate. Make sure you're free of space and coworkers. You don't want to accidentally elbow someone. This isn't Taekwondo or something. You're just getting moving. Okay, now that you did that, one more sun salute, up and around. Okay, you guys can sit or you can continue standing for the remainder. Next, what we're going to go through are some examples of great exercises you can do standing at your desk if you're at a standing desk. The standing desk provides you lots of opportunities to move. There's no standard amongst workplaces if you're going to be sitting or standing. If you have the opportunity to have a standing desk, these are just some great exercises that you can do while standing. So the first one is not a whole lot of movement. It's simply just doing an isometric contraction of your abdominals. So what we want basically is to create a little tension in your lower abdomen by tightening in like you're putting on a tight pair of pants or tightening a belt or preparing yourself to get punched in the stomach by your 10-year-old daughter or something like that. Holding it 5, 10 seconds, you know, the numbers are not critical on these things, especially if you're at work. These are things just to get you using muscles, moving around, supporting your posture, supporting your spine. So again, that's just drawing in, getting a nice little hold, you know, making yourself look a little better for everybody, and then relaxing. Similar to that is isometric glute sets. So that's basically just isometrically clenching your buttocks, tightening in, again, holding a good 5, 10 seconds, and relaxing. You know, this, yeah, someone might notice you're doing it, but it's not likely. So, you know, don't be too shy as you're doing that. It's not a large dance move like some of the other exercises, but you're just holding and squeezing. Okay. Next up, just moving into a little bit of more movement just to keep your ankles from getting stiff while you're standing there, and to focus you back into being centered. You know, if we're standing at a standing desk a lot of time during the day, we might get off balance and do a little bit of a hip out stance and put all our weight more on one leg. So just standing and doing some toe taps forces you to put a little equal weight on both sides. And again, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 10 repetitions, you know, anything that basically just gets those ankles and feet moving. From there, you can go into some calf raises. As you're doing your calf raises and doing that nice standing up onto the tippy toes, you want to think about keeping pressure through the base of your big toe. That keeps the pressure equal through your ankle, so you're not rolling out onto the sides at all. And again, you're just creating blood flow, getting those muscles working. Standing desk is a great place to practice a little bit of balance. So standing on one leg and just holding that balance. You know, stand, again, 10 seconds, 20 seconds. You can go longer, depending on your stability there. But the thing I want to emphasize with that, again, is it's an active stance. It's not this lazy, oh, I'm standing and practicing my balance. It's really pulling up the hip, using your core muscles so that you're actively practicing that balance and actively engaging all of those postural support muscles as you're practicing. You can add in some leg kicks to different sides as you're going, just to challenge it up a little bit. You can close your eyes temporarily, but you're not going to get much work done that way. So continue, you know, just doing things appropriately. Next, another great simple exercise for legs, and again, practicing that good postural stuff, is doing mini squats at the desk. You can hold on, do a nice little hip hinge as you come down, coming back up. Still practicing that isometric abdominal contraction to keep your back supported. But you're basically just squatting down like you're sitting into a chair, keeping your back in a fairly neutral, straight position. You can hold for a little bit to make sure your quadriceps get a little bit more fatigue. Again, this could be a coworker challenge type situation. And coming back up. The next idea is things like desk push-ups and desk planks. You want to make sure you have a stable surface. So I've put the brakes on my desk, but making sure you have a stable surface, walking the feet back onto the toes, keeping your abdominals in tight and your glutes in tight, and you can practice doing planks. Again, short duration holds, it's totally fine. Longer if you, you know, are comfortable with it and it's something that you've done before. Push-ups, I'm going to use the wall instead of the desk because this will not safely hold me against the wall here. And you're just doing your basic push-up. Again, within your fitness and comfort level as you do this. Some basic stretches you can also do in standing are a nice quad stretch as you're standing there, as well as, again, using the wall and things for the calf stretch. And lastly, one exercise I didn't demonstrate yet, but is on our list there, is just doing a split squat or a lunge. So a nice wide stance, keeping that back in neutral and dropping into that little bit of a lunge. If you want this to be a stretch, you can just stay in the kneeling position, get a little stretch of your hip flexors, or you do your repetitions and get a little work into those legs. So standing desk allows you lots of opportunities to move around, but not available to everybody. So we're going to talk about some sitting exercises as well. So if you are spending most of your time in sitting, you have lots of options for exercises as well. Again, starting off with that good isometric abdominal contraction, and then just adding a little bit of marching into that. As you're doing that marching, you're trying not to go side to side with the body or forward and back with the body. You're just trying to hold yourself in a good posture as you're doing the marching. The thinker is another way to activate the deep postural muscles for your neck. We might tend to fall into this posture as we're sitting there all day. And the thinker is a way just to try to lengthen out the back of the neck. Do a nice little isometric push. You're not trying to crush, walnuts between your chin and your hand, but you're basically maybe squashing a grape with that much force. And a couple second hold is just fine. Moving back down to the legs, you can do some leg extensions. So that's simply just kicking the legs out. If you are a little tight in your hamstrings, this becomes an active hamstring stretch. If not, then it's a nice way to just keep your quadricep muscles working. Desk dips is a way, to work on your fitness with the arms a little bit. If you have armrests, you can use the armrest to do the dips. If you have a more stable platform of a desk, you can use the desk to do the dips. Again, this falls into that category of where your physical fitness in general life falls. You can work yourself harder or just do things to make sure you're using your arms during the day. Scapular retractions is basically a way to correct that posture again, pulling in and pinching between the shoulder blades. The hands are going to move with you as you do that, sticking out the chest a little bit. You want to make sure you're pulling your shoulders away from your ears as you're pulling back. Now, kind of jumping around here, but the handshake is just another simple exercise to loosen up forearms and wrists if you've been working for a long time into that cramped posture, not obeying a lot of the tips Derek had given with the neutral wrists. So the handshake's just 10 seconds, 30 seconds, just loosening up the arms and letting things just relax. Some kind of classic neck and shoulder stretches that you'll see in many ergonomic handouts and things like that is your upper trap stretch. So the upper trap is a large muscle through the side of the neck that often gets chronically overused and stiff and tight. So with an upper trap stretch, you're basically just doing a side bend of the neck, head and neck, a very gentle overpressure. And again, you can hold for 10 to 30 seconds and repeat pretty much as often as you want, as long as you're not really yanking on your head and neck and causing some trouble. For a little bit extra stretch into the whole shoulder, you can place the hand behind the back as you do the stretch. Levator scapula stretch is very similar. You're going to start everything the same, good posture. You can do hand behind the back. But instead of going straight across, you're going to bring your chin towards your underarm and a little pressure over. Again, and that'll be a little bit more of the back and neck and shoulder blade. Crossbody shoulder stretch, again, is another classic one just to get a little stretch through the shoulders. Make sure you're sitting up in the good posture as you pull across. Again, gentle pressure. You don't need to be ripping your arm out of its socket. Just gentle. You can turn that into the thoracic rotation stretch, which is basically a little bit of a hug and twist each way. If you have armrests, it's great. You can grab the armrest and do a gentle pull as you pull across. And these are things just to keep your upper back, mid-back, shoulders moving throughout the day. The thoracic extension, again, is just moving yourself out of that sustained flexed posture and bringing yourself back up. You can place the hands behind the head and do a little bit of a back bend. The idea here is not the head looking up. It's more of just the low back and mid back doing a little bit of an arch and coming back down. And even though a lot of these stretches are meant to get you out of that forward position, it's just fine every once in a while if you feel like you need to flex down and let everything stretch that way as well. The whole idea is just getting yourself out of the sustained long-term positions that really put a lot of stress and tension throughout the upper back and mid back and low back. And the last two stretches here are your basic forearm stretches. So stretching with the wrist down in front. You want to make sure that you focus on keeping the elbow nice and straight. You can start off low and bring up a little bit higher. You might notice more tension as the arm comes up higher with the wrist down. Similarly with the palm up, going the other way. So with all of these type of stretches, 10 seconds to 30 seconds in that range is usually good. Just making sure that you are doing them throughout the day. So those are all of the exercises that I was going to demonstrate. And next up, I believe Derek is going to join me again, and we're going to answer some questions that people have brought in, or texted in, I should say. Welcome back, Derek.
Thank you.
All right, so our first question here is, are there different ergo setups that people should use based on the type of work you do?
Different ergo setups. If the question is meaning if you're using a laptop versus a desktop, or so essentially the fundamentals of what I went over earlier applies to pretty much any environment, whether you're at your office, if you're working from your home office, if you're working at a hotel, if you're in a conference room. Essentially, you do want to try to adjust your chair, your monitor, and your keyboard in that order. So the fundamentals of those still apply.
And I think, you know, depending on, again, the work you do, that can change a lot of things. You know, my work is mostly standing and moving around, so having a mobile standing desk is the appropriate thing for me to do, because it's short bouts of work on the computer. If it's a true workstation setup, you want to pay attention definitely to the things that Derek is referring to. Okay, next question is, do you recommend sitting on an exercise ball? I'll give you my take, and then maybe from the ergonomics standpoint, you can give yours. Short periods of time, I think it's great. It's a good way to remind yourself that you should be moving throughout the day. The idea that sitting on an exercise ball will force you into good posture is incorrect. You know, you can slouch and sit terribly on a stability ball just as much as on a regular chair. And the other thing we know about stability balls is that they're far less comfortable to sit on for a long period of time than a regular chair. So if it's pressure mapped, there's a whole lot more pressure into the sit bones than with a standard chair, and that's what makes a chair comfortable. I don't see that as a terrible thing, because if your chair is really uncomfortable, you're going to stand up and move around more, and that's ultimately my goal for you, is to basically make sure you're moving around throughout the day.
That's actually perfect. I agree with Mitch. Essentially, for short periods of time, exercise balls are okay. But essentially, when you look back at the slides, if you have a proper seat pan depth, you're actually distributing the weight of your body more equally than on the surface of an exercise ball. So short periods of time, it's absolutely fine. Anything longer, wouldn't recommend it.
All right. Are there any apps that can be used for office workouts? That's tough, because I don't spend a lot of time interacting with different apps. I know there are tons of fitness apps out there. off the top of my head, I can think of Map My Run, and I believe there's something like Tone It Up. But these are, again, not things I know much about. Basically, patients or clients will tell me what they're using, and I'll say, oh, that's a great way to track. I think most importantly, having some safe guidance, people that know what they're doing, giving you the tips and the demonstrations and the exercises, and having the tracking sort of capability, I think, is what can be really helpful. Because we want these things to become new habits, not just something you do for a week as a little bit of a fad. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, no, there's many apps out there. There's Garmin Connect, Strava's. There's different ways. Even your smartphone, maybe your Apple phone, will have ways of tracking your steps and your activity level. And so, but yeah.
Dan, that one to you.
What are the signs of carpal tunnel, and should I see a doctor? So yeah, signs and symptoms of carpal tunnel. When you start to experience paresthesias, which are numbness and tingling in the hands and their fingers for X amount of time, or if they come about randomly throughout the day, definitely go ahead and see your doctor right away. You might be able to be treated conservatively through hand therapy, and maybe benefit from our ergonomic workstation evaluation.
All right. Is it better to do 10,000 steps each day or go to the gym 4 times a week? From my perspective, it all depends on what your goal is. If your goal is more of a strenuous fitness program that's going to burn more calories and get better muscle development and things like that, the gym 4 times a week, assuming you're doing appropriate things at the gym, would be my answer. But they're not mutually exclusive. Doing both is more what I would recommend. The 10,000 steps each day is great to keep yourself healthy and moving. And that can be achieved if you add the walk to work in, or those daytime, lunchtime walks. You can achieve that 10,000 steps pretty reasonably, and also achieve your gym goals. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, and spreading it throughout the week, I think it's helpful. You don't want to burn out and do all your workouts Monday and just be sore for the rest of the week and not be able to do anything else. So
exactly, yeah, having things be sustainable, allow those recovery periods, because we don't want you to develop an overuse type thing. And recovery is basically the time when you actually get stronger. The exercise is what puts the stress or strain of the workout in, and the recovery is where you basically heal from it into a stronger fashion. I believe that's more up your...
I have shoulder pain. What type of mouse would you recommend? That's a good question. So depending on the type of work you do, if you're doing a lot of spreadsheets or mouse clicking, one of my personal favorite mouses is the Contour roller mouse. Even within the Contour design, there's several different models. But what I like to do is when I do an ergonomic evaluation and the employee's telling me that they have a lot of shoulder pain from reaching for the mouse, I try to either bring the mouse closer so they can use a roller mouse, they can use a touchpad, they can even use a trackball. Sometimes it's as easy as maneuvering the mouse, the keyboard tray, or getting a mouse bridge to bring the mouse closer. So it kind of depends on your setup and your body style and the level of activity you use the mouse with. So definitely look into an ergo evaluation with your work company.
What is the first thing I should do when I get to my office for proper ergonomics?
Setting up the chair. If your base of support is off, everything else can be off. If you sit down and the first thing you adjust is the monitor to the top 1/3 of the screen, and all of a sudden somebody else was in your chair the shift before that, and the chair's off. So you're just moving everything else around. So start with the chair, the monitor, and then the keyboard and mouse.
Any stretches to help sciatic pain? First, if you're having sciatic pain and it's, really something present in your day-to-day life, or even infrequently, talk with your doctor. If you, they might send you to physical therapy as one way to learn some specific stretches and ways to manage things. If you've been down that road, and just talking in the realm of what we're talking about today, a lot of sciatic pain is exacerbated by sitting long periods of time, putting pressure onto the sciatic nerve, putting pressure into the lumbar spine. So really standing up frequently and staying out of that sitting position tends to help you manage the pain throughout the day a bit better. Using those postural tips, ergonomic setup tips that Derek was talking about in the postural tips I was talking about with the exercises of drawing in the abdominals and making sure you're putting even weight on both legs and not falling into a side bent or slouched posture are good ways to address it. But in terms of the stretches idea, stretches can really, when done improperly, exacerbate sciatic pain. So I'm going to defer from anything specific in the stretching category. All right. And then, is it harmful to cross your legs while working at a desk?
So going back to the whole chair setup, I do prefer to have people have both feet planted on the ground. So essentially, when you do cross your leg, what happens is you shift more of the weight into your core, into your lower back. So it's creating an unbalanced sitting position. So you can't sit the whole day perfectly, in your chair. If you do cross your leg here and there, that's okay. But so long as you're not sustaining that position for a prolonged period of time.
I would agree. Short periods of time is reasonable, and your body is going to tolerate that okay. Those long periods of time definitely can lead to some things, some pains building up and some trouble. We do like to balance the stresses and loads through our body throughout the day, no matter what the task is that we're doing, whether it's sitting, walking, exercise. You want it to be a balanced approach. So if you're always crossing right over the left and never going the other way and spending hours there, it's not unreasonable for you to develop some sort of hip pain or back pain or something up along those lines. So really, limit is our best advice for that one.
So my neck is sore from being on a computer all day. Any ergo or stretching advice? So if your neck is bothering you, definitely check your monitor height, maybe even the monitor distance. Some people, if you're having your monitor too low, you're looking down too far, it just needs to come up. If it's same thing, if it's too high, or if you're wearing bifocal lenses, sometimes you catch people with their chin up, and so definitely get your monitor back in a neutral position. So sometimes I ask the employee, sit in front of your computer, open up any web page, and just close your eyes and take a couple deep breaths. And when you open up your eyes, your monitor should be right in front of you. Your neck should be in a neutral position. You shouldn't have to adjust your neck at all.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. From some stretches and exercises standpoint, I mentioned the thinker earlier. The thinker is a way just to activate some of the deep neck muscles, which help support your spine and neck in the proper way. And that's just isometrically pushing down, a gentle contraction. It's the same thing as tightening in your lower abdominal muscles for that portion of the body. That can help you kind of reset that posture. Doing the shoulder blade squeezes, gentle neck stretches, and making sure you're just putting yourself in a good alignment. All right. Is there a better way to battle fatigue with stretches? So the first way I'm going to interpret the question is you get fatigued while you're holding a stretch. And in that case, the more practice, it becomes more familiar and easier, and you don't become as fatigued. If you're talking about you're fatigued and you want stretches to help you become less fatigued, we know that exercise and energy kind of begets exercise and energy, and it's more of a little bit of a snowball effect. It's as you become more efficient using your body, you end up having more energy, and as you have blood flowing throughout your different systems, it also gives you energy, and that oxygen going through your body kind of perks you up a little bit as well. So doing the walking around the office, doing a quick set of the exercises we talked about before, or using that strategy of the magic word with your coworkers and you get up and do a few jumping jacks. Things like that can really help battle fatigue that happens with a long day, you know, stuff that leads you to a cup of coffee at 2 in the afternoon. You know, better use that time just doing a quick little burst of movement and stretching and exercise to get a little bit of your heart rate up. Really can help with that fatigue.
Perfect.
All right. So I believe we've gone through all the questions that were brought to our attention. So it's been really fun talking with you guys, and thank you for tuning in. And this has been great. I hope you guys took something from this that you can use the rest of today, starting tomorrow, and build some new habits that potentially get you moving a little bit more throughout the workday.
And thinking about your setup when you sit down at your office, no matter where that may be, make sure you're comfortable before you start working.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.